One of the things that we are dealing with today is the fact of Hearts with Hands and church resources. And one of the things that Baptist Friends International wants to promote is the churches networking together. And we know that Pastor Sexton and Brother Scott, all the staff here, are making sure that we have small group sessions to have this opportunity to ask questions, talk to each other, and share ideas. And you heard mentioned last night what would be the possibility of us having an online audience for next year if we build and prepare that we could maybe reach 1 million people at one time. That's feasible, it's doable because of the technology that is changing our world. And so we are blessed to have an opportunity that other generations have never had. And so if you have social media, you can go to Ralph Sexton Ministries on Facebook and be our friend on Facebook. And there we do things like updates for Hearts with Hands. And we also do prophecy updates because that's a resource of the local church. Hearts with Hands has a Facebook account that they can do and share. So those are opportunities that we have to get information out to each other in a quick and a timely fashion. So what I would like to deal with for a few moments is how do we go about organizing, what do we do, and to do that, I'll tell you a little bit about the birth of Hearts with Hands. I was preaching a revival down in the state of Georgia, and I traveled back in late at night and got to the house about 12:30 or 1 in the morning and went through my usual routine, go in, make a couple of sandwiches, Little Briar's ice cream. You sleep better if you're comforted. And so I was spent a little time preparing some food, and I'm a news junkie. I always like to surf through the international channel, and I went by the Weather Channel, and they said this is a humongous storm, and it was Hurricane Andrew. And so I got interested in watching that storm develop and the barometer falling, the storm expanding, and they said, it looks like it's going to hit Miami, Florida. Well, then I perked up and started watching and finally got sleepy up, I guess it was probably 2:30 or 3, and it was getting closer and closer to South Florida, and I said, well, they're going to get hammered, and I went on to bed and didn't think anything about it. And when I got up the next morning, the news channels were saying, boy, it looks like we dodged the bullet. We're not getting any bad reports out of South Florida. Looks like it probably went a little south of Miami. Miami's okay. Miami news reporters saying, yes, it's gone south of us. It's gone to the agricultural area of Florida, and looks like we're fine. Well, the problem was that Homestead Air Force Base was south of there. It's at Homestead, Florida, and they lost their wind tower, all their weather equipment. The last reading they had was 208 or 9 miles an hour, and it blew away. So it headed to the swamps, and so they lost all monitoring equipment. Well, what they didn't understand was that Homestead was so devastated, they didn't have a cell tower to call out. They didn't have a phone. The major structure was gone. And so over the next few hours, the shock, the realization, what had happened, what was going on, and so they began to respond. People from Miami went down, first Dade County Sheriff's Department, then they had some local people responding with the first Florida National Guard men going down, and then the radio started cracking. It's unbelievable. We've never seen anything like it. And when that happened, the next 2 days, I don't know if you remember, but another weather pattern came in after Andrew, and it just started. Come right on in, ladies. There's plenty of room if you stand up. No, we got one right on the front, right here. And is there that one available? Okay. And there's one here. Okay, good. Thank you. So it started raining again, and it was just tropical waves of rain, just deluge. So what we would see on CBS, ABC, and NBC is all of a sudden the National Guard was bringing in relief supplies, and they were going to where a mall used to be, but the mall was gone. There's nothing left but a slab of concrete. And so they would bring the supplies, offload them, and then take off to get another one truck loaded because there was so much devastation. And I watched that the next 2 mornings, and then at the afternoon news, they would show a big front loader, big military front loader, and he would be scooping out sand to the side of where the concrete pad was, and then he would just go over to the food and supplies and just push them off in that hole and bury them. And because everything was being ruined. There wasn't a roof. Think about this. There wasn't a school gymnasium. There wasn't a church fellowship building. There was no place to go because everything had just been erased. And the only way I can describe it to you is that we went to more than one bank where the brick bank building is gone. Everything's removed, and the only thing left standing is a metal vault with pieces of concrete and rebar beside it. But everything else is gone. And it's just hard for us to comprehend that kind of energy. Some of the buildings that survived, they would have automobiles in the second-story windows where storm surge and wind would just take a car and just drive it into the side of a building. The location that we were actually about 14 miles from the ocean where we went in to put up the tent. And when we got there, we had to get volunteers to clean off a field. And we found a church that had a Christian school on A1A, and they allowed us to use their site. We cleaned that off, and we found fish 30 and 40 inches long piled up against the athletic field fence that had been brought from the ocean by the wind that far inland. It's unbelievable. So when I kept seeing that operation of no place to store, then because we have one of our ministries that we have, and this is the way we do church resources. Here's Trinity Baptist Church, and I believe the New Testament way to operate is everything we do ought to be under the auspices of that local New Testament church. That ought to be an accountability back for what we're doing, and then financially it needs an accountability back to what we're doing. So we operate the local church as with staff, and then under that, all your financing and accounting. And then what we do under that is we have an evangelistic team, and this operates under this heading so that other churches will be free to cooperate and help and not feel like if we were to come to your community and do an area-wide tent crusade, that the people in your community are not writing a check to Trinity Baptist Church in Asheville, North Carolina, or they feel like they're helping build your buildings or pay your budget. So we have that under their same paradigm, staff, accounting, that has to come the same way, and then your volunteer base that comes out of there, because it takes a lot of volunteers It takes 75 or 100 just to put the tent up. So you've got to work through all that. So we saw all that happening, and then we thought, how can we help? So what we did, we had a question mark. Is this an opportunity to do something different from the local church? So when we saw that there was no place for these people to put supplies, Red Cross didn't have a place for an emergency field hospital. FEMA didn't have a place to go because all the school buildings and all the big open space type buildings, warehousing, was gone. So this ministry had we had a couple of tents at that time, and one of our tents was 300 feet long and 150 feet wide. So you can put a roof on a football field. That'll give you a little idea of a portable building that large. So what we did is I called some guys and I said, we've never done this, but what if we were to take the ministry tent and load up a tractor and trailer, then we have another tractor and trailer with electrical in it. It has a generator, that we can operate all the lighting systems. And I said we could be self-sufficient. And I said, why don't we call some of our friends in other churches and let's put together some volunteers. Let's see if we can go to Florida, and we'll take the tent, and then let's take some supplies. And we talked about that. And then we said, let's take, after supplies, that we would be self-sufficient. So we would have to cook and feed our crew. And one thing you have to do in disaster relief, what we did is we turned this into a compound that would be safe for the volunteers, and at night we would stay in there. So you go on to all these things. One of the big ones that you were a part of and helping was 9/11. We were in New York City. We were in Oklahoma at the Oklahoma City bombing. The big thing there was supplying, this is going to sound strange, but what we were sending more of than anything else was socks, because they're crawling in that rubble, and the fire had been suppressed, and there's water puddled everywhere, and then it's pretty graphic, destroyed human lives. And so when they came out of there, they would literally wear the toe out of a pair of socks crawling, and then we'd give them clean, dry socks to go in. And so we're feeding them, we're caring for them. They would have to put either they would take a cigar, whether they smoked or not, they would hold it for the aroma to try to help cover what they're doing in, or they would put Vicks Vapor Rub under their nose because of where you're working. So it's not always a very pleasant thing. So Oklahoma, 9/11, we're right there at the pit. They put us in the Alphabet building right there adjacent to Ground Zero, had been evacuated, warehousing, and so we're there. And here's the joy that we had as a ministry there is we got to fix a little over 3,000 meals every single day, every day. And we're feeding those people that are digging in the pit. They're coming out. They're covered in all that dust and silt. You're giving them a hot meal. We're not giving them a little snacky country cooking, we're from the South, so you eat over there with those folks. So we had them lining up to come by and have a hot cooked meal, and then to help them. And then what they would do is, most of our time there's not a lot to do with that disaster, but we talk to people. And there you give them the gospel and prayer. So we spent a lot of time praying. We ended up opening a prayer tent, just a place for them to go pray. So it was good. the largest one we've responded to is Katrina. And we did, remember here, 16 tractor and trailers, 57 tractor and trailers. And let's go to Katrina, and here's the tractors and trailers, 200 plus. And so now we stayed there, and we distributed in your behalf $13,700,000 in relief supplies out of one local church wanting to know what we could do to help somebody that's in a bind. You see, it's not limited to Sunday morning under the steeple inside the stained glass windows. And then you get to see people being saved in multiple ways. And now you've got the world helping you. You've got corporations helping you. Why are they helping? Because you can be trusted. You do what you say you're going to do. There's no middleman. You're not building a kingdom. You're passing away. We gave away another tent. We left it in Waveland, Mississippi. We left another tent there because they lost their town hall. They lost their city building. They didn't have a place for the fire department. So what we did was when we put up, after we got rolling, things got being distributed, then they came down here in one end of the tent and they put in the town hall, and they put in all the city officials operated in that particular building area because that was their new office. So that gave them a place to be and a place to operate. So that is just an overview, an idea of what is possible. We've got a new ministry that's 2 years old. It's called Abraham's Children. Abraham's Children. And the way this works, I go to the Holy Land just about 2 times at least, sometimes 3 times a year. I'll be leaving the 29th to go back over. Bethlehem, I'll give you an illustration, was 87% Christian. Bethlehem now is 12% Christian. The Muslims are pushing all the Christians out. A lot of the Palestinian Christians are resettling in Detroit, Houston, Texas. There's little communities that have developed there. And because of that, if you're a Christian, like one of my drivers, Bassam, he loves the Lord dearly. He has driven for us for years, and he'll go down to the bus station to work, and his supervisor is a Muslim. And so they'll get 30 or 40 buses out on the road, and he's still sitting there. He's sitting in a chair. And he has a wife, 3 children, and he'd like to work today. But he's a Christian. And so they'll call for another bus. There's a ship just landed down at Haifa. They need a tour bus to take people to Bethlehem. And so then we need a driver. And so the supervisor will get on the cell phone, and he'll call someone from another community with Bassam sitting right there. See, to starve them out. And then they started blocking the Christian gift stores, the Olivewood stores, you go to Bethlehem. So now those have been trimmed down. They went into all the Christian stores that were owned by Christians, and they were selling the Israeli Dead Sea products, ahava, which is some of the best in the world. And they put them all out in the parking lot, and these guys carried them out, and they poured kerosene on them and set them on fire. And he said, if you do that again, then we burn your store. Well, if you love your wife, your children, it's intimidating at best. So what we do is we help those. 2 of our guides, John Assad, Joseph Assad, they've passed away. John died with stomach cancer last year, 2 years ago. So we're helping send his children to school. They have to buy uniforms, so we're paying for them. And we call it Abraham's Children because Abraham had Isaac and Ishmael. And so there's some Bible-believing Arabs, and we need to help them. They're being persecuted. Since Sunday, we had 150 Christian Arabs killed in Nigeria. You know, they've been killed by the Muslim sect there. So it's unbelievable in that part of the world. So how do we do this quickly? I got about 3 minutes here. We pack a suitcase. So we get Sunday school classes from churches and people that want to help, and we put Band-Aids and medical supplies and little socks and combs and brushes and toothpaste and toys and games. And we take them to Asheville. We've got a storage unit where we work through all this stuff. And then we put big gallon baggies. And we put about $30 worth in each bag, about $30 worth. But in every bag is a Christian coloring book, the Plan of Salvation, and something to make that child think about the Lord. Now watch this. In Bethlehem, access Mount of Olives, there's an Arab hospital run by the Muslims. There's 700 in that one unit school, learning disability. This is my 9th year of being in there twice a year. And every time I go in, everyone gets the life story of Jesus. Every Muslim child gets the life story of Jesus. And because it's in a gift bag of goodies. And in October, when I was just there, we gave the Christian community there, their families, about $26,000 in cash to buy fuel for the winter and buy cooking oil. And so what do? We pack all this stuff in suitcases, and then when we go to the Holy Land with our tours, 2 weeks, I'll be taking another tour. There's 48 people, okay? So we divide up about every other person, take a suitcase, an extra one. Now, we don't make them pay for it. We raise the money. Churches and Sunday school classes, it's $100 a bag. We've already had the suitcase donated. We've had the stuff inside donated. Now we get somebody to donate the $100. You see where I'm going with that? It's how churches can spread the load. And now we come through customs, we carry that in. But when we get on there, that's a missionary tool. All these people are on a fun trip to the Holy Land, but everywhere we go, we're passing out bags, we're passing out the gospel. Everywhere we stop to eat, we're passing out bags, we're passing out the gospel. So we tie all that together. Call Abraham's Children. You can go to our website, ralphsextonministries.com, and get some ideas there on how you can help. You can call the church office and ask to speak to Donnie Walker. We just had a church in Greensboro. Their ladies' guild made 100 handmade quilts for the children's bed with Bible stories on each one. Isn't that creative? So you got this little Muslim kid curled up under Jesus.